Greetings, heathens and sweaty heretics, and welcome to a bit late, maybe, Metal Monthly for June. June. All 4 grumpy bastards of the apocalypse this week. How are we all, gentlemen? Hot and sweaty, I'm assuming.
Well, extra grumpy just because of that.
We don't do heat. One day of a bit of heat and it all goes wrong, doesn't it?
I went for a swim in the ocean today and then ate a sausage roll. So I'm happy as Larry.
Who was Larry? What did Larry have that none of us?
No, we don't ask questions about how happy Larry was. We just accept the fact that he was, and that it's a paradigm of happiness.
I wonder if he was in the sea with a sausage roll. That's what you got to ask yourself.
No. I didn't go as low as buying anything from Portreath Bakery with their £5.50 miniature pasties. They can fuck right off. Sell that shit to the second homeowners.
I believe also today you've been and spent a fucking fuck ton of money on a load of really old vinyl. So you may as well tell us about that. You're going to anyway.
Yeah. So we've mentioned this place before. I think in an episode or two, Lost in Music in Camborne, and it's run by a guy called Art. Who, back in the day, I used to go in there and get my LPs off him, and he'd hold back like some of the Metallica and Megadeth stuff for me. And I remember the first ever thing I bought from him was double LP Slayer Decade of Aggression, which is the first time I really listened to Slayer properly. And then he's it's a typical music shop. He's got his patches, he's got his t-shirts, he's got all his skins and lighters and grinders and all that stuff for that kind of paraphernalia. But anyway, I went in there. I did post a few pictures on the chat, but there's a lot more because I spent about 200 quid.
What's in your bag, Padre? What's in your bag?
Okay, so
it's a shame this is an audio.
I'm quite happy with this because obviously, yes, I know you've got to go branch out. You've got to buy your new metal stuff, like the new releases and stuff. And I've invested in some Power Trip vinyl. But when you walk into a little vinyl shop that has got sentimental value to you, and you want to see the guy do well as well because you want it there. So and then you come up, Tail Aces High 12-inch single, 30 quid, first pressing, get in.
Nice.
On the back it's got Kings of Twilight and then Number of the Beast live version.
Do you know that image on the front of Aces High was the first ever kind of heavy metal? I don't know, like my first. I remember looking at it in a market when I was a kid and just being transfixed by this image. Like, what is that? What world does this come from?
It's one of the best Eddies.
Yeah,
but it got one of me as well. It's like you can't go wrong with the 12-inch single. Talking EPs are great, but a good quality 12-inch single.
Do you get Nico McBrain like waffling on the B-side? Was that they got to that point by
no? And then this is a bit more like this is like heavy metal 80s fan starter kit purchase, and it's not like a first pressing because I'm assuming this one would be very expensive these days. But you just can't go wrong with Live After Death.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic! He's doing all right so far.
Yeah, and then I'm again. This is a first pressing, 30 quid. Really happy with it. 12-inch single, Wasted Years.
Oh,
it's nice. You've gone heavy on the Maiden.
He has gone heavy on the Maiden, hasn't he?
So basically, I went in there, and the guy said to me, the art said, he goes, "Can I help you? What are you looking for?" I said, "Anything that's metal or hard rock." And he goes, "Those two, like 3 buckets down there." And he's like, "Oh, one of my mates died, and he was a big Maiden fan. He's taken his entire collection, and I basically bought it." Now I really like this one. Talking about a good Eddie, made in Japan live.
That's a quality Eddie. How much did you pay for that?
That was 12 quid, but it's I think it's a first pressing.
That's really cheap. It can't be for 12 quid, surely.
I don't know.
It's not like mega rare, but that does seem pretty cheap. That's a good price.
Yeah, it's not what I wanted, a big iconic.
But also, the condition of the actual cover is not fantastic. So he knocked a couple of quid. He knocked like 5.
Yeah, that's probably fair then.
Right. So Running Free, Remember Tomorrow, Killers, Innocent Exile, made in Japan. Awesome. Picture of Eddie with the samurai. Obligatory. I'm actually thinking I was going to get your opinion on this. Do we send this to friend of the podcast, Mr. Evans, for his birthday?
Well, it does bring us together. It does bring us together.
But you'll laugh at this. So inside, and this is like they've got the Saxon official merchandise pullout.
Oh, that's fucking
So
wonderful.
what we're looking at here, postage 40p plus 20p for each additional t-shirt. Right, Saxon t-shirts, £4. Sweatshirts, £8. Sew on patch, £1. Enamel badge, £1.
How far we've come.
I know.
How much was that?
What year did Denim and Leather come out?
81. How much was that, Padre?
Oh, this was like 12 quid.
See, it's mad because when I was getting into vinyl nearly 9 years ago, doing the boot the boot sales and the charity shops before vinyl really sort of took on, I think I was lucky and managed to buy a load of sort of cheap old school metal, and I know I picked that one up for £5. So that's how the market's changed, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, then the next one, the question we always like to ask: how close did Iron Maiden get to thrash? They got this close. There you go. Phantom of the Opera. Yeah, yeah. Side 1, Run to the Hills. Side 2, Phantom of the Opera, and then Lost for Words. And they're all recorded live at the Hammersmith Odeon.
Just checking on the inflation rate from 1981 to now. This is just interesting. That £4 for that Saxon t-shirt, that's £14.97 now.
Okay. Coming in at a very sensible 12 quid. The entire album, Peace of Mind.
He really has gone heavy on the Maiden, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we've got, every vinyl collection needs a dose of cheese, £8. Europe, Final Countdown.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're only buying it for one song, aren't you?
No, you're absolutely fucking
it's
not.
a good album. It's a good album.
Great album.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Now,
there's an episode.
Listen,
a deep dive in Europe.
I know in the countdown episode we did, I was a touch harsh on Priest, but
Just a touch.
You've got to get Unleashed in the East. Come on,
it's a great live album.
Exciter, Running Wild, Sinner, Ripper, The Green Man, Alishi, Diamonds and Rust, Victim of Exchange, Genocide, Tyrant. It's quite. I mean, look at that album cover there. Look at the leather.
How much? How much?
Oh, that was 12 quid.
I think I picked it up for the same about a couple of weeks
I'm
ago.
loving this one. It's the Mr. Crowley live single.
Wonderful.
And the B-side is You Said It All and Suicide Solution.
It's all about that solo.
Recorded 1980.
Exactly
Recorded 1980. Blizzard of Oz UK tour. Quality. And then talking about singles, I mean, we don't see enough of the 7-inches. So I said to the guy, I said, look, have you got anything else? Like, I'm talking like 1980s thrash, as Tregenza likes to call it, Padre core. And then he was like, he goes, I've got some Megadeth 7-inch singles. I said, I don't care what they are. Just give them all to me. So these are like £8 a pop. Fucking loving this. Hangar 18 7-inch single. Look at that. Special.
Wow.
With The Conjuring live as the B-side. And that's actually from the Clash of the Titans, Wembley Arena, October the 14th, 1990. And then one of my favourite Megadeth tracks. I think Tregenza's got the picture disc of this. Mary Jane, to a 7-inch.
I did have years ago. Yeah.
Hook in Mouth is the B-side, but again, so special. And then the last one is basically the story of the Voice of Reason's life. No more Mr. Nice Guy. And that was and that all came to the princely sum of about 165 quid. And they said to me, he said, Padre, how have you got this much money? I said, I work for an oil company, tax-free. Give me the stuff. I mean, I did post as well. He showed me the Dance of the Dead Maiden album.
Yeah.
It's 200 quid, but it's a special edition.
Oh, wow.
And but what I like about this guy, so like his name's Art. It's a small record shop in Camborne in Cornwall. So it's near where me and Tregenza grew up. He's been going for years. He opened the shop in like 1994. He's got a massive place out the back that he's locked up, but he unlocked it for me just to show it to me. He said he's still working his way through it. It's all his vinyl, but it's a massive room. It's not the stuff that's out the front of the shop. But like he grew up with Black Sabbath. He knows Iommi and Ozzy, but personally. He used to go to their very first gigs. He's like, he was joking with me. He goes, "Oh, the amount of times Ozzy's drunk me under the table," And I think he knows. I can't remember his name. Is it David Lynn, or from one of the other bands? Is it The Cure? No. Anyway, he's a nice guy. If you're in Camborne, if you're in that with the west of Cornwall, you're looking for a good vinyl shop.
Don't know why you would be.
Yeah, but Lost in Music, he's open 12 till 5 Wednesday to Tuesday to Saturday, I think. So it's not open that long, but he's got and he's got all the AC/DC stuff in there, loads of Guns N' Roses. They had they had the Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 on vinyl. That was pretty cool. I almost bought that. But he was saying to me that it's becoming increasingly more difficult to get your hands on like vintage Metallica, Megadeth, and Pantera and things like that. So
yeah, because it changes hands for silly money. So it's
people hang on to it. They're not going to get rid of it.
This is the thing. This is why, again, I said to people, there's a reason why you do not see metal, either CDs or vinyl, in charity shops, because the fan base is too devoted, and they know they can get money for it if they want to get rid of it. They're not just going to give it away.
Yeah, which is why it's always a massive score when you go into like a charity shop and someone's put, you're sifting through, all the Killers albums and the Kaiser Chiefs and all that shit, and then you come across some Cannibal Corpse, and it's like, right, someone has left some stuff here, and that's it. The hunt is on. You just want to scoop it all up and find everything that you can.
It's kind of horrible, but you're just hoping that someday, there's been some metalhead who's died, and his mum doesn't know what to do with everything, and I'll just get rid of it. Just give it to a charity.
The thing is that my regret, and this is one of the costs of I think of moving abroad, because I've never been able to take my vinyl collection with me, and I used to have a respectable vinyl collection. It wasn't very big, but it was like there was just quality all the way through, like my Creeping Death EP, stuff like that. And I've donated the residuals of that to our mutual friend Rob, because he was actually growing a vinyl collection, and now I've come back home and I'm like, kind of want vinyl again. So, but I wish I wish we'd known what we know now back when I was 18, and I could have started investing in and just keeping it together and buying a couple of albums a month, because back when I was at university, you could still pick up Master of Puppets on vinyl for 10. I remember buying Justice for All for $5 in a record shop.
In the late 90s and early 2000s, vinyl was cheap as chips.
Yeah, I know.
It's the same as anything, isn't it? It just goes in cycles. It will probably drop off again at some point.
That's true.
Right. So can we start discouraging people from buying it and encouraging them to sell it? And then
to me.
Yeah, to us.
You don't need any more. You're going to need a second flat if you carry on the way you're going.
Can we have a crowdfunder? Padre's vinyl collection.
Yeah, no, I ain't funding you.
But no, it was, when so you go to the beach, you buy some vinyl, and you have a sausage roll. That is a perfect day. It doesn't really.
I can't argue with that. I don't think Larry would argue with that.
I could do that every Saturday in theory.
Yeah, that's your life as well, isn't it? So
Yeah, but the thing is, let's not get into a pissing contest about beaches, because
why not?
We're in Cornwall. Your beach is the English Channel, and it's filled with sewage. Okay?
No.
And the Cornish coast ain't.
No, Cornish coast is brilliant.
My beach is the North Sea, and actually we're one of the cleanest beaches. In fact, we won awards. We've not had the sewage problem, so no.
No, but it's the actual quality of the beach is crap.
Yeah, this is the shittest dick swinging competition I've ever seen. Can we get on with this now and actually talk about some?
Welcome to In the Abyss metal podcast, where we discuss the cleanliness of England's beaches.
Well, most of them are shit, so let's just crack on and talk about Crypt Sermon, because that's more important. The Stygian Rose, great fucking title and a great fucking album. Yeah, look, for me, it's Rolls Royce Doom mixed with a bit of new wave of British heavy metal. I'm pretty sure we all enjoyed this one. We must have.
I think that was the significant thing, wasn't it? It kind of the chat group sort of lit up with, have you heard this record? And one by one, everyone, ticked it off their listening list and had a great experience with it.
But Mr. Reason's a bit. Look at him. Look.
Yeah, he's
I'm on the fence. It's uncomfortable.
Right. Let's hear it.
Yeah, just at the moment, I'm undecided. That's all it is. I think. Stuff like Scrying Orb is probably where I need to focus, because I love that. Absolutely love Scrying Orb, but I think it's in that sort of area where I don't know if it's going to be a grower or if it's just not going to click with me. So I like what they do. I think their general sound and how they approach it. Again, it surprised me when everyone was calling it doom metal, and it was like, well, no, it's heavy metal with a significant doom influence. Yes, I know it's quite mid-paced for most of the time, so it's not like rollicking new wave of British heavy metal, but it is classic heavy metal in a lot of its spirit. But I think maybe that's kind of why it's because it's not got that high energy, as it were. It's less my thing. So I'll keep at it, but at the moment, it's not sort of blown me away like you guys.
It's Angel Witch doing Candlemass. Or Candlemass doing Angel Witch, one or the other.
That's, to me, I tell you, the band it reminds me of actually is another like fairly recent band, as in they've been putting out records in recent years, is Sorcerer.
Yeah.
So to me it sits in a similar pocket to them, which is this big grand kind of epic doom metal, but as Voice of Reason says, it's doom in the sense of like Sabbath with Dio or Sabbath with Tony Martin kind of doom. It's still quite melodic, and there's a new wave of British heavy metal influences running through it, and but it's I really enjoyed it. It just ticked all the boxes I needed it to tick for what it is. It's got a great album art. That's always a good thing for me. That kind of beckons me in, and I thought it was great. I was straight on the internet to buy the vinyl, so that's
I did as well. Yeah, it was definitely a vinyl purchase, and I think first listen, I was a little bit kind of, because it's 6 songs, isn't it? And all 6 of those songs are all pretty long, so it's not always going to be instantly, it's not going to be an instant hook, is it? So it did take a little bit of time, but I think it was only probably the second listen. I had it in the car and just walloped it up loud, and that's what did it. I think the title track that finishes off the album, all 11 minutes of it, is just an absolute fucking epic. Love it. Picks up the pace a little bit as well, and yeah, it's a fucking cracking album. But at the minute, it's one of my top 10 of the year so far.
Right. And I think you using the word epic hits the nail on the head, because that's what it is. It's heavy metal on a grand scale. Everything is larger than life. Everything is big.
Yeah. Which is what heavy metal should be.
Yeah. I've got a lot of time for that.
Voice of Reason, you're about to say something?
Just to say, I'm when I just checked their location, because I thought, right, they're going to be European. No, Philadelphia.
Yeah, my natural assumption was they're Swedish. I mean, a couple of the guys are in Majesties and Obisque. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Obsequy or something.
Obsequy, yeah, whatever they're called. So it's one of those kind of setups, and I've gone back and listened to the previous album as well, which I had heard and was familiar with them, but I wasn't all that fussed about it. And this is definitely a big step up from the previous record. The last one is good, but I'm probably more with that, where the voices with this one, it just didn't really kind of drop, but this one definitely has. It's got enough hooks and enough epic moments that it sort of knocks it home.
I dipped a little bit into the back catalogue. I like what I heard, actually. I thought, it was all cool to me. I didn't give it a lot of time, but I dipped in. Like, across the board, though, one thing I'm thinking, I'd love to hear this live. I think, if they can carry off what they put down on tape on stage, it would sound immense.
They'd be a great support band for Green Lung.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
That would fit. So
that would be a night out. That would be a night out.
Well, Green Lung are breaking the States, aren't they? They're going out doing a tour, and they're taking Castle Rat out as support. So
yeah.
That would be.
Do you know what? There's a lot of this kind of like, how would I describe it? This sort of European sounding metal coming out of America at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think there's been they had the whole sort of Fire and Frost festival over there. Bands like Visigoth have been involved in that, and so I think it's been simmering under for longer than maybe we'd ever give it credit for. But it's really starting to break out. We're hearing these records now. Well, I don't know. They're for whatever reason they're coming to us, and more power to it, man. It's great.
Yeah, agreed. The Yanks are coming, so let them keep going. Let's touch on GURT, Satan, etc. I mean, we had Gareth Kelly from GURT on a few weeks back, which was a great chat. Lovely guy. Go back and have a listen to that, because it's a really cool listen. He's got loads to say, really strong opinions about things. But we may as well talk quickly about the album amongst ourselves. Bean and I, we both really enjoyed this. I'm a pretty much a newcomer to GURT. I've known of them, but never really paid any attention and actually listened. But this album was particularly fucking good. Filthy, dirty, sludgy, but hooky as fuck. And it's almost got a bit of a boogie about it. And I just think it's, just a thoroughly enjoyable listen and puts me in a good mood, which, positives. I'm just curious to see what the other two have thought of this if they listen to it.
Not my thing.
Yeah, I thought you might say that.
Simple as that. That's it. I won't. I won't criticise or praise or anything like that. It's simply not my thing, I'm afraid.
But it has a pink album cover with multiple metal horns on it, coming out of little metal horns and smaller metal horns, and
even all the horns.
But that's all a bit like, no, it's a bit Doctor Strange kind of thing. Just it gives you that sort of hivey feeling across the skin, like. It's like looking at a photo of something with a lot of holes.
There's a word for that, isn't there?
There is a phobia for that.
Yeah,
it's fucking horrible.
Yeah. I mean, how would you ever eat a crumpet? Put it that way.
Well, exactly. This is it. Yeah, crumpets.
Yeah. God, nightmares. The more I listen to this GURT album, the more I like it. Like, I enjoyed it.
Trypophobia. Sorry, that's what it's called.
There we go.
There you go. Go on, carry on.
No, I was just singing the praises of GURT. And so the thing that stands out for me about this record, and off the back of some of the things we talked about on the interview episode, was, GURT essentially it's a grassroots band. It was even described as like a hobby, really, in terms of like the way, everyone has to fit it around their day jobs. They're operating at that level. And the more I listen to it, the more I think, fucking hell, this is world-class music. This stands up against, certainly against all the albums we've been listening to this month, it's getting better and better the more I listen to it. I'd almost go as far as say album of the month. It's the one that keeps surprising me. I'm like, oh, this sounds fucking good. Who's this? Oh, of course, it's GURT.
Fucking GURT. They must be doing something right because they're relatively self-sufficient as well, aren't they? Like you say, they're completely DIY, but they are a self-sufficient band, and that's something that Gareth was really proud of when he was on the podcast. And
exactly, and
I just think that's a really positive thing to hear.
There's a lot they do right. Yeah, I've got a great merch game.
Yeah.
The albums sound great, and Gareth was singing the praises of the producer and the whole setup they've got there, in terms of how they put these albums together. I think everything just clicks into place, and that means there's room for them to just throw themselves into it and capture that energy, and that's what comes across on this album.
Yeah, and hopefully, he was talking about some live dates, maybe sort of later this year, early next year. So, I'd definitely be keen to catch them live.
And the album's called Satan, etc. You could love it.
Yeah, as contrived as that may sound, it's a fucking great album title. Yeah. So it's yeah. All right, well, at least you and me enjoyed it. So we have a bit of a throwback and talk about Earth Tone 9 because this is a really interesting one.
Yes.
Voice of Reason. Let's put this on you first.
You know what? I want to start to say it was so pleasing in the days after this album was released. Which what's it called? It's a Latin name.
In Resonance Nexus.
Yes. Is that Latin? I don't know, probably. But yeah, it was really pleasing in the subsequent days after its release to see various people on social media, mainly our age, all saying the same thing about how much they absolutely fucking love this album. And I, first listen, it's good, but repeated listens, it is such an enjoyable record. It's heavy, it's shouty, but they're singing there. The choruses are big, the hooks are big, the melodies are there. And I don't think it can really be understated how significant that band actually were for about 4 years, between 98 and 2002.
That is a fair shout. That is a really important point to make.
In Britain, they were everywhere. Literally, they were the hardest working band in Britain. They toured everywhere. They supported everyone. You could come home and you'd be eating your dinner in your back room, and there's the band playing in the Sun Lounge. That's how good they were at doing what they did. You know, they released 3 albums in as many years, 3 good albums at the time, and then they stopped. I mean, they have their reasons. I don't know if their profile just wouldn't grow anymore, which is a shame because 2002 metalcore hit. Maybe it would have worked for them, but I think it just seemed like they kind of decided it's not happening. But you know, back then they probably got lumped into the new metal thing, which might have been a factor.
Did. Yeah, they absolutely did.
And that's a shame because I mean, you know, that first album was very tall in a lot of ways, wasn't it? You know, there's a lot of progressive stuff, but it was heavy. It was, you know, sludgy. It was post metal. There was all sorts of things going on. But again, accessible and shouty, but not new metal. You know, it was new. It was a new sound, but not new. If that makes any sense.
They were like if Tool met Willhaven. That's the way they always looked to me.
Certainly that first album was absolutely that analogy works very well.
And then they did get more melodic, didn't they, as time went on?
And I think that's what's showing here. And you know what strikes me about this album is they must have remained really good friends in the last few years, because I'll admit I completely missed the reunion album from 10 years ago. Completely passed me by, so I can't speak of that.
Yeah,
but
me too. Yeah,
this feels like a band who have been doing it for a long time and are just so in tune with each other, because it just, you know, everything about it is good and fits and works. And you know, this is a top 10 for me potentially this year. And again, it's just one of those albums that I think, you know what, lots of people need to give this a go, because it's heavy enough. There's some thrashy bits in it, for Christ's sake. You know, Cole's voice is probably better than it used to be.
I think his voice sounds incredible in this album, to be fair to him.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah. And I'm like everyone else, I'm so pleased that they just dropped a banger at this point, you know, for us, basically. Yeah,
I completely agree. And they're one of those bands that we saw them loads back in the day, like you say, because they supported everybody. Funnily enough, I caught a glimpse as I was walking up my stairs, my frame of tickets. There's an Earth Tone 9 ticket on there from the LA2 with Sugar Coma as support.
Wow.
2001, £6.50.
I didn't go to that. I think
it was me and Wolfman, but they're one of those bands that I did enjoy, and they were very good live, but I was never like massively into them. So this album, I was kind of more interested than I was like excited by it. And the first listen, like, yeah, it's okay. It sounds like Earth Tone 9 and all that, but second, third listening to it in the car, it did really click. And we were having a brief discussion about the production as well previously, but I think they've stuck to their formula and what they do well. You know, these days, album production, a lot of the metal we listen to is very abrasive, and it's very, you know, the guitars are really up front, and it's all about, you know, dense guitar tone. And, you know, the 200 Stab Wounds album, for instance, hugely thick guitar tone, but they've stuck to a formula. And I was a little bit jarred by the production at first, but afterwards it made sense. This is Earth Tone 9. This is what they do. They've got their sound and they've stuck to it. And I think fair play to them for that. They haven't jumped on any kind of bandwagon. They are doing what they do well, and it is a fucking great album. It's another one that's gone in my top 10 for the year so far. It was probably the album of the month. 2 songs in particular, Lash of the Tongues and Strength Is My Weakness, both quite melodic songs. The choruses in those 2 songs are just absolute worldies. They've properly nailed it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them again with Helmet in December, because just to see where they've come. And I think that point you made about them still having a chemistry, it's a bit like Orange Goblin. You know, they've just obviously got a chemistry, and it works. So fair play to them. You know, it's great to have them back, and it is like you say, it's an absolute banger of an album. So yeah, kudos.
I see. I was going to come in. I need to spend more time with this record, because I fell at the production hurdle. You know, you talked about the kind of it being quite jarring at first, and it was for me as well. Now I can hear in this record everything Voice of Reason has talked about. I hear that in that. The musicianship is fantastic. There's these thrashy moments. Everything is there, and the songwriting is there. but kind of, you know, you made that comparison with 200 Stab Wounds, which is a record we'll talk about a bit later on the episode. But I had it I've had this album in a playlist with all of the albums that we're talking about tonight. And every time an Earth Tone 9 song came in, I could hear it comes from a very different place in terms of the production sound. It's a very it's quite a uniquely British production sound that I think a lot of heavy bands are using, like Svalbard are another example, that they sound that highly compressed sort of almost like a poppy production, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not putting that forward as a criticism, but it's a very specific and quite a unique sound that means it sits in a certain place, you know, when you listen to it on Spotify. So I found that quite jarring, and it put me off listening for a while. And it's only in the last couple of days I've come back to it, and all the positives that you've been talking about are starting to reveal themselves. But I've needed to kind of work my way around that very smooth, very slick, modern production sound. And it's interestingly, I went back and listened to Arctangent today, and in comparison, that sounds absolutely savage. And interestingly, that's an Andy Sneap production.
Yeah.
But the snare drum on that and the guitar sounds on that, they've got real venom and real bite. And I kind of miss that a bit. When I did a 1-2 and put them next to each other, I was like, okay, like my heart is in the past a little bit with this sound. But the songwriting and the performances and everything else is absolutely there, and just as you said, like the chemistry is there. These guys have just slotted right back into place and just rolled with it, and you know, I'm confident it's really going to click. Like already today I was recommending it, like my son, I spent some time with him, and you know, he's quite into that sound. That was the first record I spoke about today with him, you know, so there's definitely some positives in there. So I don't mean to sound hard on it or anything, but that was where I tripped up with it.
Well, it's got a vinyl release, isn't it? So that might be a good way to go with it. To on vinyl, sit down, listen to it,
and live. Like you talked about the Helmet tour coming up. Like, fucking hell, let's just drink to that. Helmet playing Betty. I mean, fucking hell, what a tour that's going to be. Earth Tone 9 in support, and I sent like Tregenza, I sent him a text the other day, just say these songs are gonna soar. They're gonna absolutely fill that room.
Yeah, you talk about Arctangent. When they released that, it felt like they should have made that next step. Like Voice of Reason was saying, it was like it felt like, right, this is it now. If they were American at the time, I think they would have done. It was almost like they were just hampered by being British.
Do you know what? You could probably say that about so many bands, you know.
Yeah,
well, we've said, I said the same thing about The Almighty.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. The British. I mean, Arctangent was 2000, but 3 albums in as many years. So 2000 that came out, and you got to think what else was going on at the time. And it's getting your nose in.
Yeah.
What does the press? Really what the press is going to want to give other things attention, and I think by 2002, Killswitch Engage come along, Metalcore destroys new metal, everyone flocks to that, and I can understand the guys probably thought, fuck this.
And in between all that, you had Pantera came out and dropped, and I think that really changed the landscape and what people wanted to hear. Which probably was the stepping stone towards bands like Killswitch Engage and things like that.
Yeah, it was just wrong timing, I suppose. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. They've got an album release show on the 4th of August at the Black Heart, which sold out. So that's a good sign. And they just released like another 10 tickets. They can squeeze a few more people in, kind of thing. So there's obviously still a bit of a hunger for them. And you guarantee that room is going to be full of people of roughly our sort of age, early to mid 40s.
Yep.
It's a bit of a nostalgia trip. But this is a strong album, so hopefully it will pick up new fans and they'll grow from there. British heavy music is at a bit of a pinnacle at the minute. So hopefully just one of those bands that can go with it. So, okay. So carrying on with a slightly sort of progressive tinge, Noxus, Violence Inherent in the System. Yeah. This, fuck me. I don't even know what to say about this. I'll probably put
it's
it.
bad.
It's
bad.
Right,
It's
hold on
just
before
bad.
you go slagging things off through a lack of education. This all I'm going to say is the bass line throughout this album is just like Whole Lot of Rosie's Thighs is the thickest thing I've ever heard.
You're right. I would agree with that, and this is the thing. When I heard that first song and that, but like you said, the bass line at the beginning of the song, I'm probably going to like this. No. And it's like it's disappointment. And no, but what I will say is I don't like it. It's not because it's not my thing. I think there are flashes, or you go, that's a good riff, and then it does something else. And you're like, oh man, yeah, you almost had me there. And all that was for me all the way through the album. And I just think
it was just plain hard to get, Padre.
I don't, I don't mind putting a bit of effort in, but
That's good of you.
I'm a difficult catch, like it's it's just I'm not going. It's bad. I don't like it. It's disorganized. It's another example of trying to listen to something that's akin to the first couple of pages of like Ulysses by Joyce. It's like someone's just dropped the pages on the floor. We put them back together and go, oh, that's the story. I think it lacks coherence. That's the thing for me. It's not coherent enough. It's not cohesive, and it's a shame because the guitar tone, the bass line, are good, very good. I like the production on it. The some of the riffs are good, but then they go off on a tangent or they go away, do a 180, and you're like,
oh, massively, yeah, it goes all over the place.
And and this is my point. It's like going back to like the prog episode we did. When things get like that, sometimes when it feels like it's not organic, and it's almost like it's a music theory piece that they're submitting to be graded. Look how many different key changes we could do or time changes. Just one or two in a song's fine, but like that, I'm like, nah.
I don't know. I get where you're coming from, but I get quite a lot of hooks from this album. I didn't think it was that hard to penetrate at all.
This is the thing.
Where's the Sid James, Kenneth Williams meme?
Is it because I was the one that?
Will you just grow up?
Never.
You're obsessed today.
Never.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, he just won't shut up.
Everyone's talking over me, so I thought, sorry. Yeah, I was the one who actually raised this, wasn't I?
Which is unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll give some of the death metal that everyone online is talking about a go, and like I say, straight from the off, it was like, wow, this is, like I say, the bass sound and that guitar sound was just crushing, as if absolutely enveloping you. And I was hooked, literally, which for tech death is a surprise for me because not my thing at all, generally speaking. But the reason I think I like that is it knows when to stop, because too much tech death is it's wanking. It goes too far. It's too all over the place. I can't deal with it. I still like songs. I still like choruses. That's my thing. I just like it with a lot of power, which is why I like a lot of classic metal. But this kind of it's pushing that as much as it can, but it knows when to stop, and it kind of knows when it's getting a bit too anal about it, and it's just the right point. And for me, it's just on the right side of accessibility where tech death is concerned. And because it's heavy, because it's crushing, and because you've got those hooks, yeah, I'm in, basically. Which, like I say, for tech death album is a fucking miracle.
I'm just going to kind of echo a lot of that because I picked up on the recommendation and it came out of the blue for me and never heard of these guys, haven't heard anything they've done before. I loved it. To me, it sounds like Cannibal Corpse if they were produced by Ross Robinson, in the kind of 1995, when like the kind of era of Slipknot and the first Korn album. It's got that real ragged approach, and I think that's what saves it from going up its own arse in terms of like the whole tech death thing, right? Because it doesn't sound clinical, it doesn't sound clean and technical and everything's quantized and drilling into your head. It's live, it's a live drummer, the tempos sway, it's not machine like,
it's raucous.
It's raucous. It's absolutely
I will say I agree with you. I did think that this album might be one of those albums that I'm not going to like on, like, listen to it on a stereo, but live, I think. And again, I think it's like, is this one of those things where if you saw them live and you didn't know about them, you'd be like, yeah, we're going to go and get that album now.
Yeah,
I reckon
potentially.
they'd be a complete.
And it's just like, I can't remember the last time. I actually no, I do. It's probably 2004. It was when we went to I was at Download for the day, and I didn't know a lot about Opeth, and they played in the second stage. They were just under Slayer, and then just under Opeth were Lamb of God and Mastodon. That was a damn good lineup on that second stage.
Yeah.
And I walked away again. I was like saying to Graham that I need more Mastodon. Where do I get it? And Rob from Music Radar was there with me for Opeth, and we were like, I was like, fuck me, need to see this band. Need to go and get more stuff for them.
Yeah.
And then Lamb of God.
2004.
I didn't
probably would have got it at Woolworths back then.
Yeah, but like and then I saw Lamb of God as well, and I was like, fucking hell, that's good. But there's something to be said about seeing a band that you don't know about live and then going, right, I need to hear about this. I need more. Like, to be honest, actually, no, fuck it. I do remember the last time it was Flamebearer. I only heard one song of Flamebearer before I saw them live, and I've gone away and I've gone and got their stuff. So yeah, actually, fuck a lot of you. It was Flamebearer.
Well, look, there's going back to this Noxus release, right? There's one important aspect that can't go without a mention, because just when you're lost in the maelstrom and everything's just hammering you, you know, like as they do with everything they've got, they pull out a fucking clarinet solo.
Yeah.
and that was the moment where I was like, shit, this is brilliant. Okay, so like, you know, this I can't, forgive me because I can't remember the name of the track as I'm talking now, but you know, it's hammering along and the solo comes in, and my first thought is like, that's a really weird guitar tone. Like, I'm not, and then you realize it's a clarinet, and they just rip it on the clarinet for a few bars and then back into the madness. And that was the moment where I realized this is up there with all the quality releases this year. I'm having it. I think it's fantastic.
I put them in the same vein as Suffocation. That, like, a band I took quite a while to get into. The last 3 albums I've really enjoyed, and I saw them live. This whole point about seeing these type of bands live, saw Suffocation live and was completely fucking blown away by them. And I think this band would have a similar, well, if they can deliver that live with that extra power that you would expect, I think it could sound just utterly destructive. So be interested to see if, you know, if they ever come to the UK, I would definitely want to see them.
Yeah. I think it's significant. The way they've recorded this album, I think, is significant, because I think that's them saying, do you know what? This is us. This is what we do live. We're just going to set up. It sounds like they have just set up in a room, put the microphones on everything and press record, and that's it. What you get on this album, I am confident, is what you get on the stage.
Yeah, watch the space. It'll be interesting. I'm gonna go back and listen to this album a few more times as well, because I haven't given it. I think I'll enjoy it more with a few more listens. So this is one I think I'll come back to.
It's not an album to listen to repeatedly. I think it's.
Oh no, it's not having your head smashed in.
Yeah, but it's, or, you know, dip in certain songs. But yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, it's like, thanks for smashing my head in with a brick, and then they come along and smash your head in with a brick again. So, you know, it's not always necessary, but yeah, I'll come back to it. Right, like, completely off a fucking tangent then. Texas Toast Chainsaw Massacre, Super Turbo. No, we have to talk about this just quick. This is not fucking Led Zeppelin 4. This is.
You don't think?
I mean, I need to go back.
It's good fun. It's what it is.
Is it Houses of the Holy?
That's probably a bit more close to it. Yeah.
I think Holy Moly is what I said the first time I heard it. It's a blast. It's
ridiculous.
The thing is, you can't actually criticize music like this, because this kind of metal, as long as it's competent, it's going to be enjoyable.
Yeah, completely.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Municipal Waste if they listen to a lot of Slayer and not Anthrax.
Right.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah,
It's
musically,
it's heavier than the songs aren't as good, but it's got that Slayer crunch to it. So that's kind of what
songs like RoboCop is whoop ass.
I was more thinking Godzilla versus Barkley, Dunks of Justice.
Man, poetry.
And Godzilla's giant cock or whatever the
there
lyric
was.
is.
Yeah,
I mean, look, at the end of the day, what can you say about this record? It's like this is pizza and beer, pizza and beer thrash.
Yeah.
There's like film references. There's a little tribute to Creeping Death on there, like a kind of a semi cover.
I just looked at their Spotify page at their other albums, and they've got a song called Aliens versus Predator.
Yeah. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So it says it all. In fact, their pun game you could put them head to head with GURT, right? In terms of puns, song titles, and all that. It's just good fun. And to Voice of Reason's point, it is competent. It is played well. It's a headbanger of an album.
Yeah, it is. They remind me of a crossover thrash band since gone, unfortunately, Dr. Living Dead.
You mentioned then,
lots of movie references in there. A lot of it was Schwarzenegger based and things like that. But it was, like the track "Revenge on John," which was all about John McClane, but it's got that same kind of feel. I think that's why I enjoyed it, because, like, you're right. If it's competent and decent, you can only enjoy this kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one Schwarzenegger John reference you need, and that's John. I'll be ready, John. Come on, Matrix. Let's party.
Does anyone know where the toast reference comes from?
See, this is another thing I'd love to
Massacre.
know. Yeah, because it's like, all right, well, take Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and what else can we drop into there? I don't know.
Texas toast is a dish. Texas toast is a
yeah.
Right.
I know that, but
this is what I'm wondering.
It just seems why. Yeah, it's an odd one. It's still an odd name for a band.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it makes sense to someone. But anyway, it's not an album it's a getting ready to go out album, isn't it? It's one you just stick on to get hyped up, and you're going out, you're getting ready for the festival, you're getting ready for the gig, you're getting
moshing
ready
into your hairbrush, all of that.
Yeah, exactly that. That's where this album belongs. It's heavy metal parking lot. That's what this album is.
yeah, fucking right. But you know what? You look at the album cover and the name of the band, you know exactly what it's going to sound like. So they stay within their lane and just do it. It's fucking great fun. If again, another one, if they came to the UK, I'd 100% go and see them live, because I think it'd be bonkers. They'd be a great support for the likes of Municipal Waste. It'd be really good fun. It is like seeing Municipal Waste and then Municipal Waste again, but there's enough of a, like Voice of Reason said, it's just that little bit heavier, so it would work. But yeah, wicked good fun and a daft name, and bands like that.
We all laughed. We shared this album. We all had a laugh. We all had a smile, and I think that's what it does well.
Yeah, it really does. So if you're into that kind of shit, go out, give it a listen. It's fucking good fun. Less fun, The Formless Fires by KVAEN. KVAEN. I don't know. It's probably pronounced Kevin or something. I'm not entirely sure, but this caught my ears well and truly. This one, I really fucking enjoyed it.
I've listened to this album once, and I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it a few times. There's definitely meat on that bone.
Oh, there's Kenneth Williams again.
Can you just stop? Just Kenneth Williams is gone. Let it go. Okay. I wasn't that taken with the first track, but then I thought, let's see how this goes, because and then it pans out, and it's like it's definitely got all I say is that it's definitely worth listening to. It deserves effort. It deserves a good proper sit down listen to it, and let's see what happens. But definitely, what do you think? Yeah.
I listened to, I can't think what it's called now, but their last album came out. It was around about lockdown, and I was taken with that to the point that I've got a copy of it on vinyl sitting around here somewhere. Really into them, and I didn't know they had another album coming out. So I think it was Tregenza that just put this up as a link to check out. and straight from the off, I can't find anything not to like about this album. It's just, if I'm going to put it in who would I compare it to? It reminds me of sort of latter day Satyricon or something like that, but it sounds great. I mean, the rhythm guitars sound like the tone was dialed in by Satan himself. It's thick, it's heavy, it's crunchy. What's not to like?
Yeah, I think the songs Ancient Gods and Basilisk are probably the two standouts for me. I mean, like you said, the rhythm guitar playing on Ancient Gods, that clean intro is definitely. I mean, I'm a bit of I've got a soft spot for a good clean intro. And I think it's something that gets we went through a long period of metal where that clean intro was a dying art form, and it's starting to come back. I mean, it's like one of the worst culprits of the clean intro is Testament. They love them. They can't.
Yeah, they love a clean intro. Yeah, they do. They do.
This is true, but
it's like just out, on a slight tangent. Do you think like clean intros exist in order to demonstrate that most bands or most guitar players look, I can play classical guitar, so I'm just going to show you that I can, so you can stop telling me that I'm all I know how to do is play power chords.
That's like, definitely going to be the case with Testament. Alex Skolnick, isn't it? That's 100%.
Yeah.
Well, look, he can put his money where his mouth is, and then some.
Yeah.
It's like you get the idea sometimes that Mustaine heard the intro to Fade to Black and was like, you call that a clean intro? And then Good Morning Black Friday. He's like, that's a fucking intro. Not knocking either song.
Like on the point of guitar playing on this album, that like the other thing that struck me is the leads across this record. And there's something I love that like bluesy melodic playing like in black metal bands. Because black metal is supposed to be emotionless, right? It's very cold. Even the corpse paint and just the general sound of it is very or can be, I should say, kind of bleak and harsh, and there's you're not giving anything away. So when you hear this like a bluesy, emotive, melodic solo with all this tone going on, it kind of, I don't know, it just grabs me, it pulls me into the music a lot more. And it's like, okay, there's more going on here. And just in black metal in general, there's kind of more going on than we give it credit for, that.
I think there's a place, in the market in terms of tourism and travel, that we could have like an area of Norway where they have wooden churches just that black metal fans can go and burn. Like they're like specific, like they're not consecrated ground. They're just like replicas of other churches that were burnt, and like for like $1,000 a head, you can go in, you get given all the petrol and kindling you need, and like they just go, right, let's burn this son of a bitch down. A massive stereo system, play whatever music you want.
It'd be like Legoland for like
black metal
fans.
Yeah, Thrashland.
I don't know if you mentioned it while in my absence while I was topping up my beverage, but this is also a one-man project. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
It is. So that instantly makes these things cooler, to be honest with you. So
that is really interesting to know, because it's this might be a stupid thing to say, but it sounds like a band. I think what I mean by that is there are so many ideas going on. There's so much musicality to this. But then you could compare that to someone like Hellripper that's doing a very similar thing,
very similar,
man. But it's there's such a rich soundscape going on that it's difficult to believe it all comes from the mind of one person.
Yeah, it is. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's the kind of black metal that I like. It's got a bit of a gallop to it. You can hear like actual roots of heavy metal through it, like bands like Emperor always had, like bands like Immortal. They've just still got that root in heavy metal, and this has got that. There's hooks in it. You've got the little sort of Viking-y sort of tinges to it as well, which is great. Die Doda Sang translates as Song of the Dead. That's the highlight. It's a pure epic. Again, it's like a proper fucking galloping across the plains kind of track. Yeah. And it's just, again, it's another one that kind of surprised and came out of nowhere, really, because I've heard the name, but I've never listened to him at all.
Well, my hopping on point was the last album. I mentioned it a few minutes ago, so absolutely recommend that as well. Again, my memory is terrible and I can't remember what it's called, but a quick search, you'll find it. It's really, really good. And I'm referring to it as black metal, but you make a really good point. Really, it's a heavy metal album with that. It's kind of a blackened heavy metal album. Is probably more accurate than to call it black metal.
Yeah, because it's not just that fucking relentless barrage of noise, is it? It's got enough melody to make you. I could, as weird as this sounds, I could sit and just listen to it. Do you know what I mean? It's it's not just live or in the car or whatever. I could just sit on vinyl and just listen to the record and enjoy it. So,
and that's credit to that's songwriting, that's arrangement, that's
completely.
Dynamics, all those things, and they're all included on this record, and that's that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, completely. Voice of Reason, did you have a say on this while I was away?
I didn't. I'm afraid that I'm very much at the opposite end of you guys.
Fuck off.
I didn't. While I didn't dislike it, I would also say, like the Texas Toast guys, it was certainly competent, but it's a different kind of music to what they do. So this needs to be more than competent, I think, to sort of hook me in. And you have got melodies there, you have got musicianship. It's got all the right ingredients, but for some reason, none of it is really clicking with me. And the thing is, there's a lot of this stuff about the moment, this sort of melodic, blacky, deathy sort of accessible metal. And I just fear that they're not doing enough to like really stand out a lot of the time. I think when you're doing stuff like this, the songs have got to be really good. And for me, they're not. I'm afraid. So
I think that's a fair criticism. Like if I was to say anything, the songs don't really linger. So, as much as I put it on and I love it when it's playing, I'm not really taking much away with me in terms of hooks but maybe that's just time. Maybe that's,
I mean, it comes back to, a lot of the stuff we get sent and we listen to for these roundups it's derivative, right? And it's whether or not you think derivative material is any good. I mean, I'm not going to say we're talking like it's the 1980s glam and it's like almost like cookie cutter. It's not that. Because there's a bit more to these songs and these material and these albums than one riff and a catchy chorus. This is not cherry pie. But at the same time, there's a lot. I mean, like one of those, I can't remember the name of the band that we did it a few months ago, and I said they were very much like In Flames. And I have no problem with that. And I listened to the album and I enjoyed it. But I think I agree with the voice. It's not, what are you actually taking away from it? Is it going to go into your pride of place in your CD collection? You're going to keep going back to it again and again? Or are you just going to listen to the Jester Race?
I think that's where literally just a personal preference comes in, doesn't it? Because I think the album you're talking about is probably Upon Stone right at the start of the year. It was very, very In Flames. And I can see what you mean with this album. It is like that. It's gonna hit or it's not. It's not a kind of a passing interest kind of album. And for me, it hits. But I can also understand why it wouldn't. Because sometimes I just want that just barrage of heaviness and just it's just in your face and it's extreme and you can pick out the odd hook. But if I was in a different mood and I listened to it for the first time, I might have just gone, nah. But I think at the time I was just in the mood for that kind of thing, and it clicked. So,
the challenge is we've only got so much time, and we'd rather you can be patient with an album and keep listening to it in the hope you get into it But I think if you really like what they do, even if it doesn't click immediately, you come back to it, and that has been the case with better albums for all of us, hasn't it? And like I say, for this, I don't think there's enough distinctive to be patient with, unfortunately. I'd simply rather spend time with the stuff that I like or I know I will like at some point. So that's just how it is.
All right, cool. Let's quickly touch on a couple of EPs because there was a couple of good ones this month. First up, Celestial Sanctuary dropped a bit of a surprise EP, really. Visions of a Stagnant Blood. But Celestial Sanctuary, we know what they do. what we need to talk about on this EP is the 10-minute song,
I was about to say,
Garbage of the Vile.
Can you really call it an EP an EP if it's got a fucking 10-minute song on it?
Well, perhaps, but I think that came out of nowhere. I mean, one thing I said about Thirst for Torment was the slower, sludgier stuff on that album sounded better than the faster, more death metal-y stuff. And this EP has got this 10-minute song has got a lot of that, and I really fucking liked it. And I didn't think it was a 10-minute song. It went by a lot quicker, and so I was quite surprised. I'd be interested if they ever play this shit live.
Yeah, and that's interesting because this was released in because they were announced as support act for Kerry King. So I think just to coincide with that, they put out some new music. That's what I said. I mean, the timing to me seemed like that's how it all came together.
Yeah, completely.
But I liked it. I thought it's Celestial Sanctuary playing to their strengths, as you said. Slow it down. It's keep it in the gutter, keep it in the swamp, keep it dirty, keep it low, keep it filthy, and as you said, it's Celestial Sanctuary doing what they do, but they're doing it well and making a name for themselves. They seem to be rubbing shoulders with some classic metal bands. Some classic. Heavy death metal bands. So watch this space. Whether they do, I mean, do you think maybe they're going to do like follow Green Lung into the States?
I think they have to. I think, because they played with Obituary here, they played with Kerry King now, and they like you said, they've done Download as well. Their profile is growing. I think if they were to pick up a US tour, one of those ridiculous fucking 40-date US tours with an Immolation, who they played with in the UK, or Cannibal Corpse, or any of those kind of proper death metal luminaries, they could really,
because this is my point. It's like if there's an American death metal band coming over to the UK to tour, Celestial Sanctuary are often placed with them.
Exactly. So,
if that's where my mind would be going. If I was them, it's like we need to get across the sea, get on one of these tours, just as you've described.
I think the Yanks will lap them up, and they don't sound British. It's almost like it's way too filthy for them to sound British. So, but watching them live, Tom has got that banter as well, and he's a character. So that kind of breaks up. That adds the Britishness, which I think the Americans will just be all over it. I think they've got an opportunity.
Yeah. Good luck to them, man. I want to see them do well.
Yeah, but I know. I mean, I liked it. I've not really given it much time, but I've not sort of really jumped onto the Celestial Sanctuary bandwagon just at this point, but I'm trying to be quite patient with them because again, there's something about my likes. Some of the stream of ooze or whatever it was called, foul festering load of
meandering stream of filth.
Yeah. I mean, oh Christ, that is immense. But it's taken a while with me, so I'll add this EP to the last album and bear with me.
I know what you mean by that. I don't think they're quite there. They haven't nailed down exactly how they're going to carry it forward, which is why I keep saying about the slower stuff. I think that's their way forward for me personally anyway, but their next album is really important for them because that'll be the sort of defining point whether they go up or whether they just kind of
do you know I tell you, so it's just something's just occurred to me because I really enjoy listening to Celestial Sanctuary, but they're a bit of a magpie band, as in they kind of take the best bits of all your favorite death metal bands and present them back to you. Whether they're really bringing their own thing to that, I'm not sure. The jury's still out. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just need to be, there needs to be something else that's not, that bit sounds a little bit like that breakdown on a Morbid Angel track. And that bit sounds a bit like Obituary when they, they're almost like, and don't get me wrong, they have taken the best bits and kind of made a Frankenstein's monster out of all of your favorite death metal bands. But does that equal a band in their own right?
They could be doing it the right way, a slow build. At the end of the day, they are only 2 albums in, and as metal fans these days, we are a little bit impatient. So this is that kind of development time. Go away, one more album, and I think that's going to be where, like I said, a big tour in the States, and they could fucking run with it.
And don't get me wrong, that's not me saying, I'm a fan. I really enjoy what
absolutely. I love them, especially live. They come to life on stage completely, and I really hope they do make it. And, you know, we had them playing in a fucking 50 cap room in fucking Essex. So, you know, all the more power to them. If they make it, happy for them. I really hope they succeed. So, Padre, what do you think of this lot?
I like them. I did like the first album, and unfortunately, I haven't had time to listen to the EP because basically, since I've been back in the UK, I don't live on a compound at the moment. I have a life.
All you're doing is eating pork products.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's also going out and finding the products. It's an adventure. Some kind of pork crusade. No, I do like them. I agree with you about the slow stuff. It's their way forward. I didn't think about that, but I do think when they do slow down, they know how to write a good riff, and
yeah, completely.
Maybe that would be. I mean, you can have your like kind of modus operandi being the slower stuff, and then you know they can drop in some tracks on the next album that speed it up a bit. But I think as well they attract some attention with the kind of the style that they write their song titles in, but I don't know how many legs that's got. That might just be a thing for the first album. Maybe they want to try and shorten stuff down.
Yeah, I think mix it up. The odd sort of slightly overrun, ridiculous, long, definite. Like you can have the odd one in there. It's always good fun. It just adds a little bit of humor to what is murky music, doesn't it? So, you know,
it's like one of those things.
They have got a humorous edge.
Just imagine, you know, if you've got a band and they've got like lots of song titles that have got like one word, like navigate, Guns N' Roses, Night Train, you know, for example. What do you want to hear? Night Train. And then these guys do it. What do you want to hear? And like you're not going to get 400 people in unison coming out with like a really long title track. So I think they definitely I did like them. I think didn't I put them in my albums of the year last year?
I think you did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did.
It was in there. Yeah. So
I don't even know what I liked last year. I know what I liked 30 years ago.
Yeah, all right. Right, the other EP I want to talk about just quickly is Black Sun Sorcery by Moon Reaper. I really, really like this. We caught them briefly at Bloodstock last year, and they were good. I thought they were good, but it was a kind of a little bit not quite sure what they were trying to do. It was a mix of all sorts of things, but this EP is they've kind of taken all those different elements, the doom, the black metal, the death metal, bits of thrash and whatever, and they've brought it together just right. And there are some enormous fucking riffs and breakdowns in this EP for 4 songs. What they managed to squeeze into it, I think, is fucking brilliant. And her vocals are, quite frankly, terrifying at times. So it harks me back to the first time I heard Angela Gossow with Arch Enemy. Go fuck me. You know, it just. I think they've hit a bit of a goal. I don't know if the rest of you have listened much to this at all, but I think it's fucking brilliant. And another British band.
Okay. I mean, I've only had one listen, and at the moment I'm undecided. But I'll give another go based on what you just said.
Yeah, you need to come back to it and just, you know, all the black metal bits, the death metal bits, and the doomy bits. It's just these massive fucking breakdowns, and they're usually backed by a big guttural roar as well, and it just gets like really heavy, and it hits you like, you know, right in the middle of yourself, right in the sternum kind of thing, and you go, ooh, yeah, it's a bit of that. So give it some volume, get in your headphones maybe, and go out for a walk.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I was eating my dinner while I was listening to it just now, so
yeah, it's not dinner music. It's I would recommend getting it in headphones and doing it that way and giving it some volume. It's fucking quality. Bean, Moon Reaper.
Missed it. Haven't heard it. Couldn't tell you anything about it.
You fucking scumbag. Move on.
Yep.
Right, a band that have never released a bad album. There aren't many of those out there, but Fu Manchu are one of them. The Return of Tomorrow, so it came out the 14th of June, middle of last month. I took a while to actually get around to listening to this, but when I did, it just makes me realize what a fucking great band Fu Manchu are. Just a fucking great band, and this is just such an enjoyable listen.
And they're like, you know, I mean, going back to, you know, Tregenza being so metal that he's actually got 2 Fu Manchus, one beneath each nipple. That's how metal he is. And that's two Fu Manchus that we know of. A third one we might be have to ask his wife.
Even she
I think
hasn't seen it.
there's currently an exploring team looking for the lost Fu Manchus of his body.
These Fu Manchu are one of these bands that I've been aware of for ages, and for some reason I just had this like connection with them, that they were kind of almost like a ska punk band. I'm sorry, this is not a criticism. This is more criticism of me. You know what it's like? You listen to a genre of music, but there's just bands that just seem to pass you by. Maybe you mistakenly connect them with something else, and so therefore, and you know people that like them, but they never really. I'm Fu Manchu have never really come up in conversation before on this podcast. Anyway,
massively, no.
Yeah, exactly. So that's if the intention of this podcast is to educate me in music made after 1994, then you're doing a piss poor job. But the album is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm putting it into my top 5 contenders from album of the year. I fucking love this album. I'm going to go back.
Do you know what?
I'm going to go back and listen to everything they've ever done, and I want to go see them live. I fucking love it. I love the way they structure their songs. I love the riffs. I fucking love the guitar solos. This is a decent band. Where have they been all my life?
Well, they have been around since 1994, there or thereabouts. So
yeah. Well, yeah. Do you know? It absolutely delights.
We had fucking phones in '94. Why don't you pick them up? And tell me.
To hear you say that, Padre, just warms my heart. Like Fu Manchu for me, they're one of those bands for me. They're up there, with Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, all my favorites, and then there's Fu Manchu. And this, they sit in that category of band that to the casual observer just makes the same album, right? So you know what you're getting. It's like I'm thinking about bands like Motorhead, bands like Deftones, bands like I don't know, you name it. AC/DC, another example. Like every album is pretty much going to follow a template. But what I've noticed with this new album is, I should say, what I've been noticing with the last few albums is there's just a songwriter, like there's another level of class that has just come into these new records. And you mentioned the guitar playing, and Bob Bouch is an incredible guitar player. He could play rings around people. But that sort of what he brings to it is just kind of the layers and the melody and different ideas. And I adore this new album. It gives me like I think was it Signs of the Zodiac was the lead single. And there's a guitar solo on that just gives me goosebumps. Like the drumming on this album is fantastic. I love the sound of it. I love the production. It sounds like a band in a room. You can hear the air. You can hear the vibe. You can hear the atmosphere. And on top of that, you've got supreme musicianship. But they're not wanky. They just fucking lay it out. Like, it's like...
No, they're not. Definitely. That's a very good way of putting it. And this is the part of it that struck me. Again, I've been lamenting the lack of this kind of song structure and guitar soloing for ever since we started this podcast. This has always been one of my issues with some of the metal bands we listen to on here. And no, I want solos. I want songs like this. I want a good riff followed by a good chorus followed by a fucking good solo. That's what got me into metal. And that's what you get from this album.
You definitely need to see them live. You 100% need to see them live. They are one of the loudest, filthiest live bands you will ever hear.
Yeah.
And I've only ever seen them once, to be fair, and that was in '98 at Reading. They were headlining the smallest stage. I think it was called the Dr. Martens tent back then. And I'd heard of them. I'd never heard what they sounded like at all. But then I was fucking 17, for Christ's sake. But I heard that name. I'd seen the name in Kerrang and whatnot, went to watch them, and it was just like, fucking hell, this is just the heaviest thing I'd ever heard.
You mentioned Kerrang. Do you know what this is about? This is a classic example of a band I first heard on a Kerrang cover CD. And it was Electric Eye, which is a fucking banging track.
Evil
Eye. Sorry, yeah, I've gone all Judas Priest.
You've gone on Priest.
I've gone on Priest on your asses. Yeah. We all know what that means. Yeah, Evil Eye, and it's a fucking ripper of a track.
Yeah.
But that was it. Love at first sight. You know, seen them live every time I've had the opportunity ever since then. Every album that comes out, they're a great band for repressing old albums as well, so you can dig in, you get the older stuff on vinyl. Just one of my favorites.
Mr. Reason, your views.
I'm sad to say that Fu Manchu had never clicked with me, and this album does not click with me. So I'm very happy that you guys really enjoy it.
Get him off this podcast. No, seriously, you can remove people from seeing. Get him off. I don't want to see him. Off. Sing you up.
If I'm going to remove anybody, I'll be removing you before anybody else. Yeah. It's a weird one. Why I took so long to listen to this? It was only really in the last week that I've actually given it time, because like you said, I know exactly what it's going to sound like. It's fucking Fu Manchu. You know, Scott Hill's voice, just all that oh rah that he's got. That sort of bluesy swagger, and I don't know why this has clicked so much, because, you know, like I said, I don't think Fu Manchu have ever done a bad album, but you know, you go back to the 90s, Action Is Go and King of the Road, that, you know, those fucking seminal Fu Manchu albums. I've enjoyed this just as much as I enjoy those. It's that fucking good.
But there's something extra going on. There are layers. Those, you know, the past albums, it's all riff, it's all punk, it's energy, it's skate punk music. Well, not skate punk. Sorry, it's skater music, but I don't mean that in a kind of
like skater slacker kind of music, isn't it?
Yeah, right. So hopefully you understand what I mean there. But all that energy of that scene is behind it. But what they've been putting out for the last few years is layered. It's nuanced, which is a ridiculous word to use when you're talking about a Fu Manchu album, but it's there.
Yeah.
You know, there's arrangement ideas and songwriting ideas coming in that are just really, I mean, I use the word again, just really classy. And I love it. You know, I think they're going from strength to strength.
The second half of the album is almost quite sort of low key and a bit bluesy, and you know, it does it sort of it twists and turns and goes like
I think that was a deliberate thing. They've talked about that a lot with this record. It's, you know, it kind of starts, it comes out the gates, you know, at you. We get another song about Loch Ness. You know, the other song in metal about Loch Ness.
Okay, sorry, I need to weigh in on this one. I want a moratorium on any songs future that are to deal with Loch Ness. That was, so I like, you know, listen to the first track. This is great. I want to hear more. And then, oh, for fuck's sake, they haven't written a song about Loch Ness, have they? And I'm sorry, it's the downer on their album for me.
It's a great track, though.
It's no song about Loch Ness is ever good.
Well,
okay?
Listen,
the only song ever made that is good about the Loch Ness monster is "You'll Never Find a Nessie in the Zoo." That's the only song about Loch Ness. Or if it was an instrumental and it was just a Scottish guy in a kilt playing bagpipes stood at Loch Ness. That's maybe Enya if she did a track about Loch Ness monster, but
she could probably pull that off quite well.
There's a reason why bands like Iron Maiden have shied away from the Loch Ness quagmire.
There's still time.
Have Runrig ever written a song about Loch Ness? There you go.
Probably. Yeah, probably. So,
the question remains, though. The question remains: what the fuck is a Loch Ness wrecking machine? Do you not want to know the story? I mean, I'm all ears. I want to know what that's about.
I want to go back to this. Why Fu Manchu have never clicked with the voice, because it's. I mean, this is another thing that's going into my dossier that's going to prove that he's actually not as reasonable as he likes to think.
Voice of Reason is not a. You're just not a doomy stonery type, are you?
The thing is, I mean, I'd say this a lot. I'm not that kind of guy. I think when it comes to metal, I like a bit of everything from everything. I probably infuse about heavy and thrash for most, but when it comes to everything else, I pick and choose.
There's moments in it, like Caius, for instance. Caius are everyone's favourite stoner.
I love Caius, absolutely. Yeah. Right. And I think that's it. I kind of maybe go for the standout ones, or the ones that just stand out for me. I think, like I said, I think Evil Eye is a decent song, but I think otherwise this is the thing, is, you know, I mean, it's what you said earlier, Bean, about AC/DC and certain bands. They do what they do. I don't really think they change a great deal, and it's a kind of rock and roll that I suppose isn't my thing. And you mentioned the bluesy stuff, and I'm not a big bluesy fan, am I? I mean, it's like last year we talked about Spirit Adrift, a band that just didn't click with me. And I think I like my metal. I like my metal to come more from a classical music angle, rather than the American bluesy angle. And I think that's kind of what it is, really. I'm very, you know, look, without sounding like an arsehole, I am a classically trained musician, and I think that's kind of influenced my ears, you know, playing piano when I was younger, which is weird because my dad obviously, you know, grew up with American rock and roll and bluesy stuff. So it's a bit of a weird one. I think that's all it is, really. And it's why I've never really enthused about AC/DC, like you have been, for example. You know, it's just it. Look, some bands just don't click. Simple as that.
Of course, you know, and that's fair enough.
It's fair. It's fair. Yeah.
You know, I think that's it. It's just a taste thing.
Right.
But
on that note,
massive respect for them. So, you know, they're, you know, fair play to them. So.
Yeah.
Would it be better? Would it be better for you if they were called Woo Manchu? Would that be better?
But what? So the one, I don't want to say the word challenge, but I think that is what is creeping into their music. There's more of a, I don't know if classical influence is the correct thing to say, but there's a musicality to it and an arrangement kind of sensibility to it, or whatever it is that is akin to, you know, it's that layered, you know, the way you might approach classical music is it's like layered sounds, it's layered textures, and there's so much more of that going on, certainly in the last, I'd say definitely the last 2 albums, if not the last 3. So, you know, if you find the time and go in, particularly as Tregenza said, with side B of the new Fu Manchu album, you might find that there's some stuff in there that you'd enjoy.
I think, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'd probably go back to stuff like The Action Is Go, I think, because that's one I sort of remember coming out of, you know, when I was younger. And that's one with Evil Eye, I think. So,
I challenge anyone to listen to a track like Urethane and not just nod.
Yeah, that's probably the one that I might be willing to give another go at some point. So, yeah.
Right, we'll watch this space. So we have 2 minutes on Bean's balls because
fucking hell, yeah, yeah. What can I say? Well, I won't spend too much time on Bean's balls because no one else does. Only a couple I wanted to mention in this. First, we're recording this on the 19th, so that's the release day for Mr. Bungle's box set, quote unquote. So anyone that's familiar with Mr. Bungle will recognize them as a pretty avant-garde band, you know, that have been kind of welcomed into the metal community and given some time. And I remember when the debut album dropped, like me and my friends were just like, our jaws hit the floor. We never heard anything like it, you know. So absolutely crazy band. But they've packaged together all of their releases, isn't it? So it's like, you know, 6 LPs in a box set. Yeah. Debut albums in there. Disco Volante is in there. California's in there. Each one of those albums is completely unique. For anyone that's familiar with the band, you'll know, like, the debut's kind of got all these mad ska influences. There's, you know, it was produced by John Zorn, for fuck's sake. So if that gives you some idea about how fucking weird and out there it goes, then you know, use that, take that. Disco Volante, again, just all sorts of weird influences coming in there, you know, just sound effects, samples, strange arrangements. And that kind of makes me want to talk about one of the things I think about Mr. Bungle is I think Mike Patton gets unfairly credited with how kind of madcap they are and out there. I think a lot of people ignore the contribution of like Trey Spruance and Trevor Dunn, bass player and guitarist. So Trey played guitar, Trevor played the bass. Like if you listen to Trey's other band, the Secret Chiefs 3, you'll hear Disco Volante, you know, the influence of that on Disco Volante is all over it, you know. So check them out. Yeah, if you like what Mr. Bungle are doing, check out Secret Chiefs 3 and you'll hear the connection there. And of course, California was just some like lounge album. So definitely a band that 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 fit the kind of Oddballs vibe, but they packaged together everything they've done. They put out in a beautiful box set, 2 gatefold. Each album comes on double gatefold, 6 LPs across the thing. There's bonus tracks in there, so there's plenty to get your teeth into. So I wanted
£120 of your hard-earned money.
£120, you know. But listen, they make great music, so you know it's no one's ripping you off here. But the band I really wanted to mention was an album that I think was kind of dropped into the chat from Uncle Mike. I'm pretty sure this one came from him as a bit of a novelty, and that's a band called Lo Arano. Now, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but the spelling is Loharano. And they're a Madagascan band, 3-piece, female fronted. And this one got dropped purely as a listen to this, it's crazy. So listen to what I did. And like, sure enough, one song, they've just dropped an album called Devil, which is actually came out in May. So I'm playing catch up a little bit, but I didn't hear it till recently. First track, absolutely fucking nuts. Like, it's like Rage Against the Machine, but with these kind of like African rhythms going on underneath it. Really bizarre, really insane. But I didn't turn it off, and I kept listening and I kept listening, and the whole album's got such fucking great energy. It's insane. So it's kind of like I like the band describe it as Teneri rhythms, and I don't know what that means. I looked that up on Wikipedia, just kind of based on like, right, what this band all about. I'm assuming that's traditional Madagascan style beats. They're bringing all that into the music. So if that sounds interesting, check them out, because what they're doing is fucking insane. Needs to be heard. No one talks about Madagascan metal, so let's do it here, and you know, get people listening to them. So that's my oddball for the day. So yeah, go out, spend all of your pocket money on Mr. Bungle, because there's an expensive box set, and while you're at it, just listen to Lo Arano and see what you think, because I think they're fucking nuts, and I love
They
that.
had a Hellfest slot as well. Lorano, they played Hellfest, so
everyone's had a Hellfest set, surely.
well, this is true. Yeah. I played it in 2018 just on my own with a pair of spoons.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. That's great, because it clearly means, you know, they're traveling and
they're out there.
Hear them, and you know, they're getting out there, because it's fucking madness, absolute fucking madness.
Right. Okay. 2 more albums to talk about. And there couldn't be any more contrasting, to be fair. So let's start with Royal Republic, Love Cop, because this, and to quote the band themselves, the finger up the bum you never knew you loved. And that will, I think that's always going to stick with me. That look,
they are like our house band at the moment, aren't they?
They are. And look, you know, we'll go back to Bloodstock last year. It was starting to rain or whatever it was. We had nothing to do. It was like, okay, they're on stage. We caught 20 minutes of them roughly, and it was one of the most entertaining 20 minutes of the whole weekend. This band are so infectious and so much fun. And this album has that in droves. It's just fucking brilliant. I love this band. I can't wait to see them again. They're so much fun. It's so camp. It's so ridiculous. But fuck me, do they know how to write a great song.
I think that's the headline. It's like, it's great songs.
Yeah.
And you know, that coupled with the energy of the fact they took us by surprise. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't go in, you know, when we saw them at Bloodstock, you know, they weren't on the list of bands that any of us particularly wanted to see. It was just, you know, we wandered up to the stage and had the best time all the time we saw them. So they've kind of been on the radar since then. But when this record came out, it actually took me a long time to get around to listening to it. So I was watching all the banter flying around. Okay, so you're all talking about it. As far as I could see, it hit the bullseye straight away with all of you guys. And for whatever reason, I put it off. But when I dialed it in and listened to it, holy shit, straight off the bat. And the thing that struck me is at its core, this is a ZZ Top album.
Yeah, it's got that. Yeah.
Right. This is
has got
Afterburner. This is like
Eliminator,
like the 80s era ZZ Top is strong with this. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a
It's
lot of
naughty.
it's naughty. There's a lot of indie pop going on there. You know, you can't ignore that. There is. But it's got some swagger to it. And that was the in for me. It was like, this is the love child of Judas Priest's Turbo and ZZ Top's Afterburner or Eliminator, or all of those, like, you know, cheesy 80s sounding albums, just given an extra boost.
See, it's interesting that you say that, because I mean, I'm not going to dispute that at all, but I suppose I come from it from another angle, because I know I've talked about Swedish pop, well, Scandinavian pop in the past, as much as I have Scandinavian and metal, and my appreciation for certain artists in there. And of course, are they Norwegian or Swedish?
Swedish.
They're Swedish. Okay, they're Swedish. Yeah. So they're gonna have that. We know that ABBA are part of the national consciousness at this point. So you've got, no one Swedish can write music without being influenced by ABBA at this point in time. And the same fits here. But, this, I kind of, for me, this is, referencing stuff like Roxette and Europe.
Yeah, that's in there too. 100%.
Yeah. And I know they go a little bit into ska. They've got that sort of sex ballad kind of thing going on in one place. There's a band I've mentioned in the past, and I've never managed to get any of you lot into it, but some others. It's a band from about 20 years ago called Surfer Rosa, who don't sound anything like the Pixies whatsoever. But they released 3 albums. They released 3 albums of the early noughties. Female fronted vocals, very 80s, very glitzy. This was just before like a lot of the retros. There was retro stuff going on, but they never really became big. But they released an album called Shanghai My Heart back in 2004. It's, you look at it now and you think it was probably very ahead of its time, even though it's very 80s referencing. And this reminds me of that. It's got that 80s glitz and vibrancy and fun and sex and whatnot to it. And I'm glad that the Scandinavians are still doing that. They're Norwegian, Surfer Rosa, but it's the same sort of thing. Scandinavians are absolutely fucking great at this kind of stuff. It's pop rock, basically.
Yes.
But unlike Anglo-centric pop rock, which is a bit more sort of landfill indie a lot of the time, or maybe in America you've got the new wave stuff, that it references and whatnot. It's just got its own character, and that's what I love about this sort of Scandinavian sound.
So the ballad on it, Laser Love, it could have come off Hysteria. It's pure mid-80s cheese rock. The chorus to Wow 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 sounds like Uptown Funk, which is no bad thing, because that's one of the best pop songs written in the last 20 years. Everything is just full of innuendo and filth and naughtiness and men in pearls and shiny leather. I can't get enough of this band. I really can't, because how many times have we talked about it on this podcast, that if you've got great songs, you've got something to offer.
Yeah. And
they just all these hooks and all these catchy moments, and it just puts a smile on my face. Sitting in the garden, sun shining, barbecue, beer, Raw Republic on the stereo, and it's brilliant, absolutely fucking brilliant. Full respect to them for what they do. And in October they're here again, night before Halloween. And
it's Halloween.
No, it is Halloween. It is actually Halloween, isn't it? Yeah. So I'll probably get myself a pearl necklace for that one, I think. So prepare yourselves.
Not for me, right?
It'll be a very personal pearl necklace. Padre, have you had a listen to this? I'm curious.
No, I haven't. No.
You absolute Philistine. All right. Anyway,
there's only enough hours in the day, so many hours in the day, that I can listen to new music.
You're doing fuck all.
This is the perfect album just to put on when you're just doing other stuff.
This is a summer album.
Yeah,
it really is.
Listen to it on the train up to London this week.
The first time I heard it, so the kind of the reminder that, oh yeah, right, I need to listen to that. I was actually at Wolfman's barbecue, so he was having summer barbecue, opened up the garden, sausages cooking, and then he had Love Cop on the stereo, and it was like, right, okay, now it's clicked. Now I need to dig into this, because this is perfect, and that's what it is. It's a summer album, good times, good vibes. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, we all have a collective love for this band. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing them again. Right. Very much more from the underbelly of heavy music. Probably the most high profile metal release of the month. The new 200 Stab Wounds album, Manual Manic Procedures, with the most delightful album cover, I think, of the year. You can't really argue with that. It's pretty fucking grim. Look, 200 Stab Wounds are a band that the previous album is good. It's okay as far as death metal goes, but fuck me, this is a step up in it. I know you agree with me. This is the real deal, this one.
Well, this comes out of like, if I like, I like to judge metal albums on how much I need to take a shower after I've listened to them. And this one like is way up there. Yeah. Absolute filth.
Yeah. I fucking love this album.
Yeah.
And for me, what is essentially a straight up old school death metal album. It's not really thrashy, it's not a bit heavy, it's not a bit anything else. It's pure death metal.
Yeah.
But what astounds me is the level of accessibility of it.
Yeah.
And it reinforces, I think, the actual difference between accessible and melodic, because they're two words that are spoken of in the same breath a lot of the time. And I know we've got melodic death metal, and those kind of bands do sound different to the Florida stuff, for example. But there is a difference between accessibility and melodic. This album doesn't have choruses, does it?
No.
It doesn't have typical sort of musical pop music structure in terms of verse, chorus, verse, etc., etc. But the key structures, the note changes, the atmospherics, the hooks.
I think all of that is in place, but it's
breakdowns and the riffs. Yeah,
it's groove.
It's all there, and it all hooks you in so well. And it's just, I was in love with this album after one listen, and for a death metal album to do that for me is a fucking achievement.
For any metal album, I think, to hook you in that quick and to stay with it as well, you're not going to get bored of this. No. Every time I go back and listen to it, I'm hearing something else and another riff somewhere in amongst all the layers. And, it's an absolutely phenomenal death metal album. It's the death metal album of the year. It's Pit Mortar Skull for me. I don't think it will be topped. For that particular genre, I can't see a better death metal album coming this year.
No, I agree. It's absolutely, and just to reiterate the point, it's, for me, it's groove, and I think that's something that death metal doesn't get enough credit for. It's like it's seen as this kind of impenetrable barrage of noise, but do you know what? If you just tune into it, there's a lot of, well, again, we've said it elsewhere on the podcast, blues in there. It's this lurching kind of push me, pull you that just. It's really seductive, and this album has it in spades, and it's effortless, and then just going back to leads as well, when we're talking about the like Noxus and the KVAEN album as well, some really fucking great lead work on this, like wails and whammy bar pulls and all kinds of weird stuff going on that just sounds exciting. And that's kind of what metal music should be, right? It should just, it's like riding a roller coaster. That's what an album like this should be. You get on it and you don't know if you're going to live or die, but you go along for the ride, and along the way you're just pulled in this direction, you're pushed in that direction, and you get to the end, you've got a massive fucking smile on your face.
Would you say it's like the Cadbury's milk tray of death metal? It's like multiple layers.
That's funny enough, Padre. That's exactly what I thought. First listen.
And that, like, you and Tregenza will be like lying in bed one night, and a man will parasail through your bedroom window, leave you some death on your bedside cabinet, and there'll just be a little card with like a silhouette. I guess, oh, because Tregenza likes death tray.
Something else I really like about it is right in the middle of the album, you've got Led to the Chamber / Liquefied. This sort of little synthy interlude that goes into a bit of an instrumental, and it's almost like a bit of a breather in the middle of the album. And then it just, with flesh from within, just fucking hits you again. And it's, I don't know, I can't think of the last time I heard a death metal record that's got its hooks into me in the same way this has. I've been racking my brain. I can't.
For me, it sits up there with "Dying of Everything" by Obituary. That was the last death metal album that hit me in the same way as this. It's got that effortless, like, do you know what? We're just throwing it down. We're just going to throw it down. We can do this. Shit. You know, we're on top of this. And that's not to say it's like, you know, throw away or like, you know, it sounds like they don't care. It's just, they're really fucking good at what they do is basically the thing, but they do it in a way that is very cool. You know, they're not trying to impress anyone. They're just doing their thing, and it's great. You know, a word that was used earlier on in the podcast, chemistry. All that chemistry is there. I think they're riding high. You know, they've got a lot of support. A lot of people are talking about them.
Yeah.
You know, I think all that energy of just being on the rise is caught up in this music.
They're in the moment, aren't they?
It's great, and it sounds great. Like the production is exactly how I like death metal albums to be produced. It just sounds in your face. It sounds live. It moves. There's room to breathe. You know, it's like, as I said, it makes me want to take a shower or just clean myself off afterwards because it's that fucking filthy.
I've only listened to 1 or 2 tracks, and I wasn't that taken by the band name. But
what if it had been 300 stab wounds?
No, whatever, you know. But the artwork on the cover is definitely good. I listened to it, and I can definitely, like, just the first couple of tracks, like I said, I can definitely see where you're coming from. So yeah, I mean, there was something about it that made me go, I need to go back and listen to that again. Or, like, you know, that's going to be one where you have to sit down and, like, you know, listen to it all the way through. Again, it's deserving of that level of effort. So I mean, I'll get back to it next week, maybe, or the week after, once I've, like, listened to it properly. But yeah, I think there's a lot of there's something in it that I haven't heard in a lot of the death metal stuff we've listened to in the last year. It's got something about it. It seemed like more accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible without losing its edge.
Yes, yeah. And that's, I mean, me and the voice were talking about this when we did the mental health episode before we got into all the dark recesses of our minds. We were like, you know, death metal can be a bit impenetrable for some people, and sometimes it's like once you get past that initial block, you're still left feeling it wasn't really worth it. I don't get that impression with this album. I think you're going to get through, even if you didn't really take to it straight away. If you put the effort in, I think once you get into it, you're going to be like, okay, that was worth giving it the time of day.
It's definitely worth it. It's 100% worth it. And the death metal sort of, you know, hardcore that you see on social media and things like that have gone absolutely nuts for this album. So that, you know, that sort of says it all. It will be in a lot of people's lists at the end of the year, and including mine. So
yeah, and I'll just a quick shout out to Nige, our correspondent in Belgium, who saw him live earlier in the year and just said absolutely fucking killed it. So
we get them in November, don't we? Supporting Gatecreeper. So, you know.
Yeah, damn right.
What the fuck is this? Our correspondent in Belgium. You know, fucking Reuters. Dear God.
Even if we were, it wouldn't be working anyway. So the fucking massive IT fucking crash and all that jazz. So yeah.
Well, this is true. Yeah. But all I'm saying is they can deliver. You know, we've had it on good authority that whatever they're doing on tape translates to the stage, and they're bringing it. So yeah,
I'm really looking forward to seeing.
I wasn't that impressed, by the way, with the King's speech the other day. There wasn't enough metal in it. You know, what I was hoping to see was, like, you know, government funding for, like, you know, rehearsal spaces for you know, music. That would have been
never going to happen. No. But there you go. But fuck me, that was a long one. That's taken a long time to get through June. But surprisingly solid month. So yeah, we were going to talk about a couple of gigs, but we haven't got time for that. Well, Bean, in 3 words, Foo Fighters at London Stadium.
Big fireworks. Pretty cool.
That's 4 words, but fair enough. Flame Bear at New Cross Inn, who we already talked about. Great band, great gig. Come to Chelmsford on September the 14th and check them out with Dunes and the Grey. That's going to be a fucking great night. All Father, Vermin Throne, Final Nail, and Power Failure in Chelmsford, right back at the beginning of June. Massive thank you to all 4 bands that played that gig. It was the best night we've had yet. Absolutely fucking wicked.
We got, we have to shine a spotlight on these Radio City Social gigs because they are fucking nuts. They are fucking phenomenal. People need to be getting down to, or people are getting down to them and having a great time. But we want more of you.
More, absolutely. Next weekend, we've got another one, the London Metal Coalition, dragging them outside the M25. So we've got Halberd, we've got Fracture Point, who played a show earlier in the year. We've got Cardinal X and Regicide, the Essex representation, who've just given us a fucking great album. So that's next Saturday night, the 27th in Chelmsford, £6.66 a ticket. I mean, fuck me, you just can't beat that kind of value. So come on down. We're also launching the All Father beer that night as well. Take Their Eyes. So that'll be something to sort of get down your neck. So coming up, wherever you are, just come and fucking get involved and enjoy it. And yeah. So yeah, other than that, I think we're done, aren't we? Fucking best part of 2 hours in, but
In the Abyss merch.
I hope so. Yeah, that as well. Yeah,
is now available.
Yeah, you can. You're guaranteed to look 50% hotter in the Abyss merch. That is our guarantee. So no returns, no question on that. That is our guarantee. You are 50% hotter in the Abyss merch.
We want to see pictures of people in the merch in the most ludicrous, places. So obviously, I'm gonna have to get my wife an In the Abyss t-shirt, and I said I want you stood outside Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum in Hanoi wearing the t-shirt, or anywhere else, So I mean, I'm gonna try and just get a picture of me standing in the desert wearing one, because I'll be back in.
I fully expect that. For everyone who's bought merch so far, for the few of you, thanks for doing that, because it all supports us to do what we
buy
do.
more. I don't want to be a teacher anymore.
Buy more, because every £2 counts. So that's it for this week. Next week we're going to talk about toys. Fuck knows what that'll be, but you'll have to listen in to find out, because I haven't got a fucking clue.
That's going to descend into chaos, isn't it?
Yeah, next week's going to get. We're not talking like the kind of toys that adults use. It's just going to be, I mean, what could
you never know?
Could you do something with Castle Grayskull in bed?
If you want, anything's possible.
Yeah, but maybe maybe you just had a Castle Grayskull behind you, and then you kind of stripped in front of it with the furry pants, and got your sword out.
Your sword out? Oh,
I mean, didn't it have that green ooze? I mean, that's bringing back.
No, that was okay. We can pick this up next Friday, but that was Hordak's thing from She-Ra. Get it right, will you?
God.
We'll pick this up next week. So
someone's going to be dropping their drawbridge.
Yeah. So while Bean's sunning it in Greece, we'll pick that up. So until then, thanks for enduring this week. We'll see you next week. As usual, stay metal. Cheers.